In a world of audio interfaces very much the same, it's nice to review something unique amongst its peers. And for that, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Presonus ioStation 24c. Hi folks, I'm Mike, and I hope you're well. Whilst it's certainly true that audio interfaces vary in terms of quality and features, they all tend to be a variation on 3 or 4 different themes. The Presonus ioStation 24c, however, stands alone in its class, being a combination of audio interface and surface controller. Now, this is not new to market, but I know a number of you have been considering this. So, what's the big deal? Let's start off by taking a look at the audio interface features. The ioStation 24 has 2 inputs via combo connections supporting XLR and 1/4-inch jacks, and 2 outputs via balanced 1/4-inch jacks, as well as a headphone out. Input gain is controlled via 2 knobs on top, where we can also switch on phantom power and select between line and instrument levels. It's worth noting here that there are no hardware meters for gain, so you'll need to monitor that in your DAW. Indeed, there's also no mixing control software. Instead, we have physical controls for muting our monitors, master volume, headphone volume, and mixing between input signal and DAW output. So apart from a handy loopback feature which enables you to record sound from other applications, I would describe the audio interface side of this device as very solid and no fuss. Like many other audio interfaces these days, it records at 24-bit using sample rates up to 192 kHz. But I have been surprised by it in 3 different ways. First of all, let's talk about the mic preamps. I've been using it throughout this video for the voiceovers I've been doing, and I've been using this SHURE SM7B microphone. Now, this microphone is renowned for needing lots of gain to work properly. Often you have to use something like a cloud lifter to lift the signal up before plugging it into your audio interface. Not so with the ioStation 24c. I've been using it without a cloud lifter quite happily throughout this video, and I'm sure you'll agree it sounds just fine. Now, the next thing I'd like to mention is the headphone output. I'm using these Beyerdynamic DT770 Pro headphones. Now, I'm using the 250 ohm version, which again is a very hungry headphone and normally needs lots of gain. I've been using it quite happily throughout the production of this video, and I'm sure you'll agree that can be an important thing if you want to use quality headphones. Now, the third thing which really surprised me was the latency. On my system, I'm currently using a Presonus Studio 192 interface and also an Audient ID14 Mark II. This beat both of those audio interfaces hands down with latency, especially in terms of output latency. That really surprised me. Now, that's all very well and good, so this is a solid audio interface, but I'm sure that what you really want to hear about is the other side of this, which is the control surface. Presonus have a bit of heritage when it comes to control surfaces, starting off with the, well, classic Faderport Classic, released around 14 years ago, followed up more recently with the aptly named Faderport, Faderport 8 and Faderport 16. So I have no doubt that all of that Faderport experience went directly into the making of the ioStation's controls. In fact, let's face it, this is a Faderport with an audio interface attached. Like the Faderport, it has some well-positioned transport controls, which, like all of the other buttons, have a very pleasant matte rubber feel and a colourfully backlit for your dark studio. Above this, we have a number of buttons, with the odd one out being the on-off switch for the click, whilst the rest assign various functions to the large pressable encoder above. For example, we could assign it to be used for panning, as a channel selector, or for scrolling through your project's timeline. The previous and next buttons either side of the encoder also allow you to select channels, and once you have, the group of buttons above are dedicated to channel operations, things like solo, mute, and also automation controls. There's a shift button there which switches all of the buttons to various alternative operations. And then of course we have the star of the show, the motorized fader. Let's take a moment to watch it move up and down all by itself. Many feel that this and the use of dedicated buttons is what makes all the difference, giving a tactile, organic feel to your workflow, as opposed to only using the mouse and keyboard. Now, before we continue, I'd like to thank these people here for asking me questions about this product before I've made this review. That's really helped for me to know what to include in this video. Now, if you found this video useful, go ahead and hit the like button for me. Do it right away so that you don't forget. If you haven't found it useful and you just hate it, hit the dislike button twice. And if you do like this kind of content, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube so that you're notified about my other videos. Now, back to this video. I should mention that on the rear panel we have a connection for a foot switch, handy for starting and stopping playback and record when your hands are busy playing an instrument. Also note at the rear we have our USB-C connector, used for connecting to our host computer either via a USB-C port or a USB-A port. Cables are supplied for both. Perhaps unusually these days, we also have a power connector to connect the supplied power brick. I suspect this is required for the motorized fader, but may also be contributing to the very healthy gain levels we're getting on the preamps. So of course its integration with Studio One is absolutely flawless. You just install the drivers, Studio One picks it up right away and you can just start using it. Now they also include documentation for using it with Ableton Live, Cubase, Logic and Pro Tools as well. And that's made possible because apart from the native mode, we also have MCU and Huey modes as well. Now I know lots of you want to know about whether it works with Cakewalk by BandLab. Well, first of all, let's look at it in terms of an audio interface. Yes, it works with Cakewalk by BandLab, just as you would expect. Now, in terms of using it as a surface controller, it's a little bit more complicated. It doesn't work with Cakewalk out of the box. However, I did get it working with a bit of a workaround. Now, this is not uncommon for many devices, so I'm going to be making a separate video about how to get this device and others like it working with Cakewalk by BandLab. So stay tuned for that, but it will work, as I say, with a bit of a workaround. Now, if you're in a hurry, ask me about that by email and I'll give you some quick tips about how to go about it. The iOStation 24c is a combination of two great products, an audio interface and a surface controller, and you'll save a little bit of money too compared to say buying a fader port and a Studio 24c separately. Now I know some of you get upset because modern audio interfaces often don't have MIDI connections, but honestly that's easily solved with a MIDI to USB cable, and I'll put a link to one of those in the description down below. All in all, I think this is a really powerful solution, especially for those of you in small studios with only a little bit of desk space. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. While you're there, check out the links in the description and also check out my link to patreon.com, where for as little as $1 per month you can help me help you by making more videos like this. And I'll see you in the next video.